You know that feeling when you think, oh, I should go see a therapist. And then you go see the price and your soul leaves your body. Therapy is so expensive, money-wise, time-wise. Sometimes you don't even know why you're doing it other than the fact that the dating apps have told you that you have to. And so much therapy is bad. So you could be forgiven for being incredibly hesitant to go and sacrifice so much to a process that you don't know is going to work, where you have to feel like you have to make a choice between I can work on my childhood trauma or I can have 2 kidneys this year. A lot of people have reached out to me since the Trauma Dump series to try to do trauma processing. And that's my favorite thing to do on earth, but not everyone who does reach out lives in California. I can only work in California. So I have to say to them, go and get therapy elsewhere. And then I'm confronted with this like sadness that so many people have, that they don't know who to work with. They don't have confidence in just this new stranger. So I figured the most effective thing that I could do is, well, I have 2 ideas. First idea is this, which is to give you my personal version of a guide to how to go and get therapy that is actually going to be worth paying for. The second idea is a secret idea that has not happened yet, but I'll make another video about it later. The first idea, though, which is this: how to get therapy that is worth paying for. A guide to think about. Okay, and now disclaimer, this is not therapy. This is YouTube, and I am not your therapist, but I am a therapist. Harry Dreyfus, Associate Marriage and Family Therapist. And if you're looking for therapy in California and you want to work with me, you can do that. The link is in the thing. First, I'm going to hit you with some mysterious things. If you were at the dentist and the dentist said, well, we're going to need to do a root canal on you, and the person who we're going to do the root canal with is very, very good at doing root canals, very highly trained doctor of root canals. And if you don't like him, then it will not work. That would be very strange, wouldn't it? If a root canal just needs to be a root canaled, then it shouldn't really matter how you feel about the person doing it, right? But that is exactly the situation in therapy. It's not exactly that you have to like your therapist, but the most important quality in whether or not the therapy is going to work, whether your mind is going to get canaled, is the sense of chemistry that you feel with them. And that's really strange because it's hard to test before you actually meet somebody. It undermines all this other marketing stuff that people do. The way that therapy has marketed itself as like, this is the style that's going to work best for this kind of thing, and this is the style that's going to work best for this kind of thing. All of that is somewhat true. Like there's some validity to it. But in reality, when we look at the different styles of therapy, they're broadly all decently effective. And the real differences come from individual therapists. So if you think about the different styles of therapy that there are, a really good therapist of this style and a really good therapist of this style are going to have more in common with each other than they're going to have with bad therapists of their same style. And there is such a thing as a good therapist and a bad therapist. Some therapists work for most of the people they see. Some therapists work for none because they're bad. But the more common thing is that there's actually just bad fits. On average, therapists are effective for half the people who come and see them. So the people who come, they feel a click with half of those clients. And it is only the people they feel that click with who are going to get the most for their effort. So when you go see a therapist, it is so important that you wind up on the heads side of that coin flip, or tails, if you're like a tails person. And I know how hard it is just to even make that first appointment, how to get that first appointment. It can feel arcane, confusing, take a lot of effort, especially if you're very depressed. It's not easy just to even get the consultation. The harsh reality is that there's nothing better that you can do than to meet a lot of therapists, which means scheduling a lot of appointments, sending a lot of emails, getting a little FaceTime with them, and seeing if you feel the chemistry. Because the chemistry is the highest predictor of whether or not any of this is going to work for you. And the sad part of it is a lot of people wind up in therapeutic relationships that aren't right for them, and then they stay for a long time. And it costs a lot of money and it costs a lot of effort. And there's a few different reasons for this. I mean, partly it's because we're not all used to having like agency when it comes to healthcare. Think about it when you're a little kid. You just get brought to the big people, told to go into this room with this big doctor, and the doctor is going to have to do medicine now, and you have to do it too. Some of us carry that sense of like, I'm just stuck with who I get into being an adult. You don't know that you have power, that this person works for you, and you can fire them and find a new one. But the other reason sometimes people stay is that they don't actually know what it's supposed to feel like. They don't know what a click is. So in this video, I want to make it very clear what therapeutic chemistry ought to actually feel like. And then I want to encourage you to go on a path to find the person that you have that click with. That's the only thing that's going to make it very likely that therapy works as well as it should. Along the way, we'll uncover some of the deepest mysteries of the human mind and some life stuff, but who gives a shit? So most people, when they have the sense that they want to go seek a therapist, they go to somewhere like Psychology Today and they get attacked by a wall of very nice faces and some little letters like EFT and CBT and EMDR and also $200 an hour. And they think, okay, if I can get the right combination of face and little letters and price, then maybe what is happening in my head can get better. And that face actually does matter. The price obviously really matters, and those little letters matter, but they don't matter as much as you think. The chemistry you feel with a therapist is more important than the style of therapy they do. It's also more important than the training that they've had, how much training they've had, even how much experience they have as a therapist. You think about this. Some research shows that therapists literally decline in efficiency, in effectiveness as they get older. There are studies in which they have students do therapy with psychology professors and then also do it with humanities professors, and they don't tell them which is which, and the humanities professors do just as well, if not better. Hi chat, it's Harry from the future, and I'm editing the video and I wanted to make a clarification. So when I was speaking about that study about therapists who decline in their effectiveness over time, it's not that all therapists decline over time, but the ones who remain consistent and also improve over time have to engage in what we call deliberate practice. They ask for feedback. They try to learn new things all the time. They basically keep their ambition. And ambition is something that a lot of young therapists already have naturally. They're trying to prove themselves, right? They really want to help. And that turns out to be a critical ingredient to being very helpful to lots of people. So sometimes therapists sort of relax into their job, and there are lots of theories about why it can turn into being less effective. Sometimes it's just that they start to feel like they've seen many kinds of problems many times. So a new person walks in the door and they don't really see the individual as much as they think they see the pattern that they've seen over and over again. And that can sort of erase the person in front of them. That's one idea. Maybe it's not right, but that's a proposal to explain why sometimes effectiveness goes down over time. And when it comes to that thing about the teachers and the humanities professors versus the psychologists, this has been replicated. That study is so weird that we don't even really like to talk about it in our field because it's a bit embarrassing. But really, it says something kind of intuitive, right? It's that the most important quality a therapist can have is people skills, to connect with another person. And no amount of training makes you very good at doing that. It's very hard to train connection with someone who doesn't have it already. So often, people who go on to be very good therapists likely had all the qualities that make them a good therapist before they got trained. And people who didn't have it before likely didn't really pick it up just from going and studying. Training in therapy teaches you ethics, it teaches you structure, it teaches you necessary rules, but it's very difficult just to teach somebody how to connect in that way with another person. And so they chose humanities professors because they wanted, they thought maybe that they would be intuitively quite good at this, and then they didn't choose maths professors. And I mean, it's not as if maths professors are bad at connecting to others, but so if you're in your head about what kind of qualifications a person has, whether they're an MFT or a PhD or a PsyD or a social worker. The truth is, all of us are doing versions of the same thing, but what's going to matter more than all of that stuff, you really just get kind of declutter those considerations and get in front of somebody and see whether or not you trust them, whether or not you respect them, whether or not you feel like opening up to them. Those being green flags are far more important than those other considerations. And thankfully, therapists offer a free consultation where you get to have a conversation. Not always easy to get. I know that probably many of you have had the experience of sending emails requesting this and just hearing nothing back. But there is a lot of availability. Down in the doobly ding thing, I put a lot of links for different websites where therapists list themselves. Create a copyable email that is just reaching out to them and send it to a bunch of people and see who you get back. Consult with a lot of them and see what it feels like to talk to them. Hi, chat. Okay, Harry from the future again, and I just wanted to say that for that email, when you send it out, don't put too much pressure on it. You don't have to tell your whole life story there. You can if you want, but just know that I don't believe that message is getting judged all that much about whether or not someone, you don't have to think of it as like an audition, like I'm interesting enough for you, or this is a certain kind of problem for you. But at the same time, sometimes I feel like those emails can be kind of therapeutic even just to write, to get your story down, but you don't have to do it. You can save it all in. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. That's all I'm saying. All right, bye. Research shows that you should feel the click with this person within the first 4 to 7 sessions. Sometimes you'll feel it right away. And to be honest, it is good to give the relationship time. If you watched Trauma Dump, in that example, our relationship didn't go well until the 3rd session. But if you really want to be picky and quick and dismissive, then I'm fine with you taking a read on somebody in those first 15 minutes and saying no thank you. A lot of things have to go right. You don't want to feel like, oh gosh, I just don't like talking to you. That happens. You're going on about your life, and then this person starts to open their mouth and you just go, oh, this fucking guy. You don't want that feeling. It's not going to work. I'm rambling. So your plan is reach out to lots of people and meet them and see if you feel a particular thing. Give it time if you can afford it, 4 to 7 sessions. If the click doesn't happen by the 7th session, statistically, it's very unlikely to happen. And if it doesn't happen, you're likely in a situation where this therapy is never really going to stick. So leave. Be picky. This is your life. It matters tremendously that you get this right. And it's not personal. This is just it's just speed dating, it's just preferences. And it's okay that somebody doesn't click with you. As a therapist myself, I want to work with people who click with me because that increases my effectiveness in the world. People feeling like they're stuck with me because they can't leave. That just, it's not good for me and it's not good for them. So find any way out. You can say no to their face. You can lie, or you can just ghost. It happens all the time. Obviously, I would advocate for taking the opportunity to basically compassionately reject them. Tell them that this doesn't feel like the right style for me. It's nice. It's clear for them. Therapists are people too. We do like to get a response, but at the same time, it's actually not as important as you making sure that you make the right decision for yourself. And when it comes to what a therapeutic relationship that works, what that click is, here's how I would describe it. Just ask yourself some basic questions, okay? Hi, chat. Okay, so I'm watching the next section that I've just said about asking a certain amount of questions that you should ask yourself, ask to the therapist, and it's a real shit show because I didn't really, it seems like I've asked actually quite a few questions without categorizing them in a straightforward way. So I'm just going to tell you before each section what exactly the theme that I'm exactly getting at is. So right before each section, I'm going to pop in and I'm going to say that's what this one is about. So this one that you're about to see is about vulnerability and safety. Okay, vulnerability and safety. Okay, moving on. First one, do I feel basically safe being awkwardly myself? with this person. So like, would it be possible for me to be even a little more vulnerable next time I speak to them? Or would that be like signing up for a firing squad? When I said something difficult today, did they make me feel safe or did they make me feel less safe? If you feel like you are adjusting yourself for them, either for taking care of their feelings or you're putting on a persona, it's kind of a red flag. Okay, number 2. Okay, and now this section is really more about accuracy and whether or not you're feeling really seen and understood. Seen and understood, and some when you think, oh, I'm just too smart for this person, that sort of thing. That's what this is about, accuracy. Do I feel like this person sees me accurately? Are they getting a clearer and clearer picture of me over time? When they reflect back my words, are they getting the gist of what I said? Or does it sound like stereotypes, or they're fitting me into maybe boxes they've seen before, but it's not reflective of who I am? When they summarize, do I think, yeah, that's it? Or if you constantly want to say to them, no, that's not what I meant, like you're flattening me into a box, that's bad. Okay, so we've done vulnerability and we've done accuracy. And now this one is more about, collaboration. Yeah, and agency. So there's vulnerability, accuracy, and now agency. Number 3, does this feel like something that is being done with me or to me? Did we decide together on what we wanted to focus on today? Or did they just take over and run with it? When they suggested something, did they check on how that actually landed with me? Do I feel like I can say, this doesn't feel right, or ask them to make some adjustments without being punished or criticized or embarrassed? Basically, if you feel like a lab rat in someone else's experiment, that's bad. You should feel like a co-scientist in the experiment, where you're both rats. Or really just, I guess, a teammate. That's what you want. Okay, and now this section is really about whether the therapist makes you feel more in touch with yourself. Okay, number 4. Do they help me hear my own mind more accurately? Think about the version of yourself that gets summoned up in this relationship. Did I say something that surprised myself today? Did their questions help me see something in myself, a pattern I may not have recognized before? Did I leave there feeling more in touch with my own judgment, my own wisdom, than I did before? Okay, and now this is the last one. It's a very long section about hope. And the last one is, do I leave here feeling more hope and a sense of direction than I had, or less? Oh, no, actually, it's already over. All right, but now we're on to the next thing which is about communication styles, and it applies to everybody, not just therapists. So just so you know, there's some very interesting ways that therapists can effectively or ineffectively try to foster someone's hope and sense of faith in themselves. This is something you should look out for from your therapist, and also a really beautiful lesson about how all of us try to help one another. When we look into effective styles of therapist communication, broadly, we can separate them into 3 categories. The first one would be instructive. Okay, this is somebody who's just telling you what to do. The second one is inspirational, which is, they're going to try to pump you up. And the third is evocative or evoking, which means they're going to try to evoke the wisdom that is already inside of you. And of the 3 styles, I feel like maybe I phrased that in a totally biased way, and you're going to know exactly what I'm going to say, but oh well. So the first one, instructive, where they tell you what to do. This is the least effective, and it's the least effective in life, except for in the occasion where someone really is just like, how do I book a plane ticket? But like in life, when you tell somebody what to do, there's really 2 outcomes. Traditionally, there is a bit of a taboo on telling someone what to do, and it's because when you do that, typically only 2 things happen. One is they do what you said, but you've taken the decision away from them. You've infantilized them. You've made them actually more reliant on you. The second thing that can happen is that they don't do it, and then maybe they resent you or you resent them. The impulse just to give somebody the right answer, to tell them what to do, it's very strong in all of us, especially when we see what it is we think that they're doing wrong. And ultimately, you just have to kind of accept that, like, People don't live perfect lives. I don't live a perfect life. We don't always make optimal decisions, and that's okay. Just let them make suboptimal decisions, because if it comes from them, the most important skill they can possibly glean is to make the best decisions they are capable of for the rest of their life. So you want to actually help them get in touch with their wisdom. And that's what a therapist should do for you. So the second one is a bit better, which is inspirational. Inspirational communication might make you feel quite hopeful. It can pump you up. And it's something that every therapist ought to use to some degree to infuse hope. They see you in a light that sometimes is even better than you have access to. My favorite therapist, Virginia Satir, always seems to lead with a faith in her clients that they don't currently have. And that faith is infectious. And there's a really, really powerful therapeutic quality to it. And you will feel this if you're with a therapist you really like, that sometimes you feel more beautiful, more amazing, more effective in their eyes than you can always see. And then it's really valuable to spend time with them. But the downside is that often that will fade. When you leave, you were leaving the room all ready to go and, say the right thing and do the right thing at work, in your family. And then you get there and things are mostly the same because they're gone. And that's where we get to the third style of communication, which is evoking. And in evoking, the person who is evoking is trying to evoke your common sense, your wisdom, help you to hear the wisdom and the inner counselors that are already inside giving you the right answers, or at least the best answers that you are capable of. We all have so many different styles of thinking, and maybe our very best style, maybe our very best inner counselor is like 80% as smart as they should be. But the worst one is like 10% dog shit, making you screw up your life in every way. Well, if therapy can help you commit to listening to the best person in your head most of the time, that is an enormous improvement, better than most. It doesn't make you a genius, but it makes you highly, highly effective and much more competent probably than when you began. And so that's what evoking is trying to do. It's making you the best version that you can be for yourself. And it's also admitting that, I don't fucking know what the best thing is for you. You do. Some part of you knows. Some part of you always already. Remember that in Fleabag? There's that scene in Fleabag where she goes to see a therapist and the therapist is just insisting everybody already knows what they're going to do. Everybody already knows what they're going to do. I think that that's actually much more true than it is just a joke. People have in their minds the best idea that they're capable of already, usually. They just may or may not be committed to doing it. And they're also highly aware of the much worse ideas they have. And that's okay. Keep having those ideas, but consider them, and then being able to commit to your best version is going to set you on the right course. Wow, I'm doing so boring. Now, notice within this whole what is the chemistry thing, I'm not saying that being around them should always just feel good. Therapy shouldn't always just feel good, right? It should be challenging. There should be times where you leave and you go cry in your car. You feel stirred up. You might notice you're more aware of stuff than you were before, the things that you used to push down because they're painful. So there is such a thing as really productive discomfort that you can have with someone that you have great chemistry with. So let's just think about good discomfort and bad discomfort, okay? Good discomfort sounds like what I'm doing right now is hard, but I don't feel alone. I feel stretched, but not shattered. I've been avoiding talking about this with everyone in my life, and I know it's going to be a huge relief when I let it go. Bad discomfort is going to sound like I feel talked over right now, judged, and more confused. I'm performing in order to not let them see who I really am, and I actually leave feeling ashamed of what I've been doing. Okay, so that covers really what I think you should be looking for when it comes to the professional who's actually going to be worth the money. But let's talk about the money. Therapy is so expensive, depending on how you go it. If you have insurance, you don't have insurance. Don't lose hope. If you're paying out of pocket, and most therapists have good reason not to take insurance, it's kind of a murky, weird thing about insurance, but there's actually ethical reasons not to take insurance because of the things that it does to your practice and what you're really allowed to do with people. But it also can lead to the impression that therapists only work with people who are very wealthy, who can afford $800 more a month. It's impossible. Okay, hi chat from the future again. So, There are a lot of, I've changed accents now, but what I said is true about there being ethical reasons not to take insurance, because insurance values change that is very easily measured. And if you can imagine, measurable change is highly important in therapy, and there's also change that is very difficult to measure. So when you do a style of therapy that is a little harder to measure, insurance don't love it, because they need to have a very clear-cut evidence that this is worth them paying, and they don't always want to pay. Now, at the same time, I just was looking at this section and I was thinking I was kind of excluding the therapists who do take insurance or stuff like that. And just so you know, there are so many brilliant therapists who take all kinds of insurance, and you should ask your insurance. If you are lucky enough to have insurance, ask your insurance who's in your network, and absolutely go see those people. But this section I was kind of making in a self-conscious way about how there are all these therapists who don't take insurance like me. And I was just trying to justify it, I guess. Okay, there are lots of therapists, and most of us have a significant amount of room, some more, some less, for sliding scale clients. So if price is a huge concern for you, just reach out and ask about their sliding scale availability. Meaning you pay what you want, you pay what you can. Even the best therapists you can find often have at least 1 or 2 slots for sliding scale. Often it'll be a lot more than that. In the little message that you draft that you can send to a lot of different people, you can mention what you can actually feel you can afford, and don't feel like any number should embarrass you or embarrass them. That's what they're being offered. I promise you just don't really, if you feel embarrassed by it, then you don't know what the landscape actually looks like for what people are really willing to take. There's often availability literally to see somebody for free, and maybe that's just what you're looking for. So go to the directories. I put them in the thing. There's like Psychology Today, Therapy Den. There's also inclusive therapists. And don't just skim their acronyms and look at whether or not they take insurance. Those things are important, but read their words. See how they talk about the issues that you are describing. See what they actually say about pain, about life, about change and identity and responsibility. Ask yourself, if this person was sitting across from me and saying these exact words to me, how would I feel about them? Would I respect them? Would I listen to them? If you have friends or family members who say they love their therapist, ask them, would your therapist be open to referrals? Or ask them if they have any colleagues who they would recommend who they think are similar. The fact that they have been very effective for somebody who you know is a really good indicator that they might be one of those therapists who are just more effective than others. And I put inclusive therapists down there in the link because it can often matter a lot if your therapist shares or is very familiar with the identity that you carry. There is a very troubling lack of representation in therapy. It is a prohibitively expensive industry to get into, and that can be very shunning to Black therapists, to Indigenous therapists, to queer therapists. And you can definitely have a good therapeutic relationship of someone who does not share your identity. And I can't tell you how many clients have told me that though they've had, say, good white therapists in the past who they really liked, that they didn't actually understand until they got in the same room with a Black therapist how much they were performing for the others. So if you feel like you really want to just be seen in a way that is very difficult in other contexts, then you can absolutely make it a priority to find somebody who you know resonates with that part of you too. That can be a really key ingredient in building a therapeutic relationship. Okay, so to wrap this up, don't get hypnotized by the acronyms. Don't assume the therapist knows what they're doing just because they have a certain degree. And don't assume that you're broken if the first match doesn't work out. Every time you see somebody, it might just be as likely as a coin flip that they turn out to be the right one. If it doesn't feel right, leave and find another one. The research shows us that the relationship is what really matters. But your preferences and your worldview also matter. Some therapists are just better at this work than others, and they have that click, that chemistry with more people that they see. Most people are effective for about half the people they see, and some therapists are actually not helpful to anyone. And you are allowed to notice how they make you feel and make choices based on that. So if you're paying real money for a therapist, you're not looking for a wizard in the right robe. What you're looking for is a person you can feel safe with, whose way of thinking about pain and joy makes sense to you, and who make you feel more in touch with your own wisdom. which is what you're going to carry forth into the rest of your life. That is therapy that is worth paying for. So thank you for watching and take care of your brain. I'll see you in the next one.